talking week 3 power rankings here real quick. We'll go ahead and we'll jump right on into it. So we're going to go ahead and start off with Europe. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to go from bottom to top as always. We'll start with Europe here first because their games are on Tuesday. And we'll jump over to North America because they play later on in the week. For those who aren't familiar with our system, we rank all these teams from 6 to 1, 1 being the top of the league here, and then 6 being at the bottom of the league in their respective regions. We keep North America and Europe separate. After that, this is completely irrespective of their current standing right now. So you could have a team that is completely undefeated and they might be somewhere in the middle of the pack. So this is not completely indicative of the standing currently in the SPL. This is just purely if we were to try to power scale these teams side by side, who is the top team in their region. But looking over at the Legend, we have them broken down into 3 categories even further. So we have our championship contenders. These are the people who are the favorites in their regions, who we expect to go to land and to have a very good shot of going all the way and winning it. We have our regional powerhouses. These are teams who are going to be dominant within their region, guys and gals who are going to just be, crushing it day in and day out. They could definitely play spoiler. They have the chance to go up, go down based on like the given week, the given matchup. And then we also have the dark horses. These are teams that have a lot of room to improve upon. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there. But again, don't think that any of these teams are extraordinarily better or worse than the other. These are all still pro caliber teams at the end of the day. This is just a way to kind of power scale people and to kind of figure out where they sit amongst their peers. So going ahead and jumping in right here with Europe, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start here with my number 6, which is Mouse Sports. So I want to go ahead and title Mouse's performance this week. We're going to call it Jank the Musical starring Dardes. Now, for those who aren't aware, he busted out some pretty jank mage supports here this week. We had an Agni and we had a Hell support there in one of the games, or one of the sets too, which just completely blows my mind. He might be the only support, I'm pretty sure he's the only support in the entire world up to this point, at least in North America and Europe. I haven't watched too many of the international games yet, but he's the only one that has played at least one god in every role with the exception of Hunter. So fingers crossed he'll pull out the On Her Hunter next week, or the On Her support. So we're pretty pumped. We're excited. We want to see the On Her support, boys. Aside from that, there's really not too much more to say about this team right now. They're kind of sitting at the bottom in terms of the power rankings. I know they got a game up on SK Gaming, but they're looking rough. This patchwork team has just really not come together just quite the way that we had hoped. A lot of talent on the team, and I'm not ready to hit the eject button just yet, but don't be surprised if we see some changes here before the beginning of the summer split. Moving in at number 5, we got SK Gaming right here. And old new organization back to Smite. So originally they were there in season 0, season 1. SK Gaming recently just came back here in season 5. Probably the biggest note here is that Badja was benched this past week due to underperformance, and who the best, it was just a rookie, has ended up taking his spot. He's an X factor that I really am not sure how to account for, but statistically, which is what a lot of these power rankings are based off, is we're looking at statistics and we're looking at comparators to, comparisons to how they're playing against like other opponents in the league. He's performed pretty much the same as Badge, maybe even just slightly, maybe like 3% better, something like that, some arbitrary number. But again, they played about the same amount of games so far. He's shown to play honestly about the same level, but I want to see a couple more weeks out of him. Hopefully, as you're coming to a rookie, as you come into the SPL, there's definitely a pace, there's definitely a transition that needs to be made there. So I can only imagine that he's going to only improve over the coming weeks, and if he proves to even be 10-15% better than Badja, I mean, this team is going to definitely be making strides, and they're definitely going to be they're going to be pushing some of these teams that are sitting here at the top in Europe. All right, going ahead, we're going to look at the number 4 spot. We're looking here at Obey Alliance. So it was a pretty good show by our Ataraxi and the boys here this weekend. Hats off to them for doing well. I really thought that game one was going to be, really thought that game one between them and SK was going to go the distance. I really thought it was going to break that record, that Enemy and LG set, but they were a minute short. So it's the second longest match in professional Smite history. So I guess there's that if you want to hold on to it. But there's definitely a clear gap between this team and these teams that are sitting here at the bottom three and these teams that are up here in the top three. There's definitely a big divide in terms of success and skill level right now. I mean, I believe all these rosters are talented, but there's just something missing there between those two teams. Obey, I think, is slowly starting to close the gap. I don't know that they're going to get there quick enough by the end of this split, but don't be surprised if they play spoiler to some of these top teams, maybe taking a game or even a set off of, Rival, Energy, or Dignitas. Coming in at number 3 right here, we're looking at Team Rival. So, dear European players, please stop giving Wolfie new WA. It's time to stop.
It's time to stop!
So, this was pretty much a business as usual week for the guys. They just continue to pile on wins. They sit there in, a three-way deadlock at the top of Europe with Dignitas, Energy. However, they are the best statistically performing team through the first 3 weeks, or through the first 5 sets, however you want to look at it. We know what kind of, freaks of nature they turn into once they get to LAN. They just got to, kind of continue to maintain the course right now. Really make sure that they're contending with these top teams here, keep taking care of business against the teams that are below them, and Rival should find themselves in a good spot. All right, number 2 here, we got Team Dignitas. Okay, so Dig comes in at number 2. Now, I got a riddle for y'all. What happens when the unstoppable force meets the unmovable object? Well, apparently it's a 2-0 split in favor of Energy.
NANI?
Dignitas was this runaway train for the first 2 weeks. They were just blowing through people left and right, just looked completely uncontested. And then all of a sudden, Energy just decided that oh wait, we're the 2-time defending world champions. We got all these talented players, we're not going to just get ran over. What's crazy is not necessarily how the set went. Well, maybe it was how the set went, but Arco, for both games, looked dominant. I think he's looked like the best Hunter player in the entire world for the first for the first 3 weeks. But something about that game 2 with Dignitas, it seemed like the rest of the team, it just seemed like the energy level just completely just flatlined. It just kind of fell off there, and I don't know what it was. But we've kind of seen that from Dignitas a few times where they just they almost feel like it's just, I don't know if it's a morale thing or if they just kind of defeat themselves a little bit. But until they kind of stop shooting themselves in the foot with whatever it is that they're doing, I don't know that I can put them at a number 1 seed right now. It seems like there's just a mental part of the game that is just slightly off for these guys. So number 1, no surprise, Energy. Let's all take a moment. Let's hail King Kenneth. Let's hail Energy. They sit there in that 3-way deadlock between Dignitas and Rival in terms of the standings, but for my money, if I had to pick a European winner of European champion today, it would have to be Energy. They've consistently gotten better every single week, even adapting, which is completely absurd. Just to give you an idea of how well our leading MVP candidate's doing thus far, through the first 3 weeks, through the first 5 sets of the season, he has a 20.4 KDA. 20.4. To put that into perspective with how he's doing amongst his peers, the next closest is 5.46. That's amazing. Just the dude's an absolute freak. And with the rest of his team stepping up, I think this is going to be a tough team to contend with. I wouldn't be surprised if these next 3 weeks they just end up completely sweeping the board. So going ahead and moving over to the number 6 spot. In North America, we got LG. Anticlimactic drum roll. Okay, so I think it's pretty safe to say Weekend is no longer going to be bugging any of his opponents the rest of the spring split. So in the 5 games that they've won, not talking about sets, but in the 5 total games that they have won, Arachne has counted for 3 of those wins, Cirquet's accounted for 2 of those wins. Teams have taken notice. They've banned him out. I'm still kind of scratching my head though about that draft in the game 3 against Trifecta. Not really sure what was going on there. I think LG might have played themselves a little bit.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Looking at number 5 here, we're looking at Splice, and I know some of you might be thinking, what's going on? Why is Splice, above LG? LG beat them 2-0. For me, even though this team seems a little bit snake-bitten, every single set that they play, every single game that they play, super exciting stuff. I mean, every game comes down to some white-knuckle moment like the Trifecta game where they just barely didn't take the Titan and then came back and won it. Like, just every single set that these dudes play is super fun to watch. They might be one of my favorite, North American teams to watch just in terms of, a pure entertainment aspect. But, managing to take games off of SSG and, being able to take a game off this revitalized E United team that we'll be talking about here in a moment, it definitely shows that there's still a lot of venom left in these Vipers' fangs. Number 3 here, we got Trifecta. So I think it's about time we finally take Zatman off the milk carton because he finally turned up. I mean, while, 11-7 and 19 slash line that he had, it's not going to win him any MVP votes, but at least it looks like things are getting back on track for Trifecta, which is always good. LG is going to come back for revenge here in week 4 after losing, that 2-1 split that they had. So I think this will be a great way for Trifecta to build some momentum heading into the second half of the split by just making a clean sweep of a divisional opponent. E United, they're coming in here at the number 3 spot. It's not every day that you use the word defending world champion and comeback performers in the same sentence, but E United, they made a complete 360 here this past week. Not only did they come back and win both their sets, but they 2-0 swept CLG, who was undefeated in the region. This performance definitely has launched them back into the playoff race here in NA. And I'm definitely excited to see how they're going to perform. They come back, they play Splice, they play CLG again here in week 4, and I think this will be a good test to see if they just caught NA napping or if this well-oiled machine is running on all cylinders. Now we're looking at Space Station Gaming here at number 2. They've kind of been our perennial number 2 spot here since the beginning of the season. It definitely wasn't Space Station's cleanest set, but the ship keeps on sailing for Barracuda and company. That pesky loss to Counter Logic in week 2 kind of set them back a little bit. If not for that, they would probably be sitting here at the number 1 spot. Still, a 1-4 record though is nothing to complain about. It ain't too shabby when you're considered one of the most talented rosters in the world. And then finally, rounding out here, number 1, we got CLG. Okay, let's be honest here. This game was a trap.
It's a trap!
Plain and simple. This was a trap game for CLG. When you look at it here, you had an E United roster on one hand who hadn't won any games. They came into the beginning of the week, they literally had not won a single game until 3 hours prior to this match. And they were hungry. That they were probably pissed off. And then Counter Logic had just been coasting through teams, just making it look easy. But for whatever reason, when they play these lower seeded teams, they just seemed like they were just, I don't know if they were just playing down to their competition, but they showed some vulnerability. And this was just a recipe for disaster for the boys. But, make no bones about it. CLG dropped their guard and then just a shuriken right by E United, just hit them right on the chin and just dropped them right on their back. Hopefully for CLG, and not just CLG, but the rest of the league, hopefully this serves as a good reminder that while you're trying to climb your way to the top, you got to be wary of the guys down below you who are trying to reach up and yank you down from your spot. So with that, that covers North America and Europe in terms of the rankings. Our championship contenders, as of right now, are our greens, the yellows, here and here, and then the dark horses of the league right here. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to end it here. I appreciate anyone that came out, anyone that checked out the stream, checked out the channel. Do appreciate it. If you enjoy this content and want to see other content like this, definitely follow me at the Hammer Jack on Twitter. Definitely follow the Twitch channel here. It's twitch.tv/HammerEyeJack. We're definitely going to try to be more active here on Twitter. We're definitely going to try to get a Discord and everything like that popping for the cats to come in and play some games. And until next time, this is Hammer Jack. Peace out.